Hey everybody, since we've covered the 3-day events that the Lord wanted me to focus on, I just kind of wanted to do a video here to pull together what God has shown us concerning these 3-day events and what is their importance. Right here I want to show you in Matthew chapter 12 and chapter 16, and I think also in Luke 11, we also see that this is brought up, what I'm about to show you here. In Matthew 12, verse 39 and 40, it says, "But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Okay, so here we see in Matthew 12 that the only sign that will be given to this evil and adulterous generation that seeketh after a sign, the only sign that they will receive will be the sign of the prophet Jonas. Okay? And I want to show you also, we see that in Matthew 16, and here it says, "O ye hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but cannot discern the signs of the times." Now, one thing I want to point out with this verse is this is where we see how it is connected to these last days, because we know that the Lord told us repeatedly there would be signs in the sky and there would be signs of the times. And so we know that this sign of Jonas can be connected to these last days that is referred to as the wicked and adulterous generation here in verse 4. It says, "A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas." Again, we see that in Luke 11, I believe it was. I think I mentioned that a few minutes ago. But it's a repeated thing here, so it's important because we see it coming again and again. And I wanted to show you what the sign of the prophet Jonas is in the text, okay? Right here in Matthew 12, verse 40, it says, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." So the significant thing here is Jonah was 3 days in the whale's belly, and the Son of Man was 3 days, 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And the Lord kept bringing this back to me and back to me, and that's how I got started on this. He wanted me searching out 3-day events that took place in the Bible, and it's amazing what he showed me through them, and it's just not something I could have come up with on my own. It's really been an interesting journey with him. But one thing I wanted to point out too is, I was saying a minute ago about being referred to several times about this sign that would only be the sign of the prophet Jonah. It is important to the Lord. And these 3 days, I've told you in a few videos back that how we can tell that we are, what's the word I'm looking for? Rightly dividing the scriptures. the scriptures is we'll see repeated themes within the scriptures that let us know that they are connected. And the Lord has really made a point with these 3 days. We see 3 days mentioned throughout the Bible, and we're going to cover a few more of those, but these events is what he had me focused on. And here again we see, like in the Old Testament, see, when I did a search on this, I did this search on 3 days because that's why it is in bold letters. This search is in the King James Version Bible for any verses that have 3 days in it. So what I want to point out here is in the Old Testament, you see Jonah, the book of Jonah, and then you see the book of Matthew. The book of Jonah is the last place in the Old Testament that we find the 3 days mentioned. We find 3 days mentioned. And it just happens to be the exact thing we're talking about, which is the time that Jonah spent in the belly of the fish, the whale, whatever you want to call it. People refer to it in different ways, but I think we all kind of mean the same thing. And see, his time in the belly of the fish is representative of death, okay? And of course then we see that Christ died and his time in the grave was 3 days. But what I wanted to say here was how we have this very subject, the last place it's mentioned in the Old Testament. It's all about the time, the 3 days and the 3 nights that Jonah was in the belly of the whale. And here again, when we get to the New Testament and we see 3 days mentioned, the first time in the New Testament, it's all about the same thing again. So it was important to the Lord to point it out, and now we are researching as to why. So I'm going to shut this off since I've given brief explanation on things. I do think that let me see here. There was something I wanted to point out. Let's see. We looked at the verse or the scripture in Matthew 12 and 16. This is the journey that the Lord has had me on for right now. And it's to help understand the sign of Jonas that's spoken of for the wicked and adulterous generation. It is all connected by 3 days and gives some insight for the bride, the backslider, and the lost, and how they will be affected. Now will come videos with a bit more detailed insight on each of these topics. God has given me the understanding that there is a coming 3-day event that will mark the sign of Jonas for this generation. I don't fully understand what all this 3-day event is about, but that's what he's revealing to me now. I do believe that I'll have a better understanding when we've completed this, but I do understand from the Lord that we are going to have a 3-day event that will be the sign of Jonas to this generation. I will continue to share what I'm being shown by the Lord from the scriptures. But I wanted to point out too, he's confirming very much of what he's showing me with this, the bride, the backslidden, and the lost, and how things will unfold to some degree, what I'm fixing to share with you next. He is revealing this to people in dreams. He's revealing it to them in words he's spoken to them. And that is how he's confirming to me that I'm understanding him in the scriptures correctly. Because I can listen to other people, what he's given them by speaking a word to them or giving them in a dream. And it's just like he's painting a picture in my mind, and it all fits together perfectly. And Anyway, I'm going to cut this off now, and I'm going to move on to some more detailed information. The Lord just wanted me to lay out there right now so you could get an understanding. These 3-day events are important, and they have a connection, and they play a part to the bride, the backslider, and the lost. And I'll be back as soon as possible with another video. Thank y'all. I love you. Good night.